Welcome to the Bare Metal Cyber's CRISC Prepcast. This series helps you prepare for the exam with focused explanations and practical context. Collaborating with control owners to identify and implement key performance indicators and key control indicators is an essential part of an effective risk monitoring and governance strategy. KPIs and KCIs enable organizations to measure what matters, how well business processes are performing, and how reliably controls are operating to mitigate risk. But these metrics cannot be developed in isolation. Control owners bring practical operational knowledge about how controls and systems work in real environments. CRISC professionals contribute the governance, risk alignment, and oversight that ensure metrics serve broader objectives and remain auditable. Working together, they define metrics that are measurable, meaningful, and tied to real decision-making. On the exam, scenarios involving unmonitored or misunderstood controls often reflect weak or irrelevant metrics. The correct answers emphasize collaboration, contextual relevance, and governance alignment in metric selection. Understanding the difference between KPIs and KCIs is foundational. A key performance indicator, or KPI, is used to measure how well a process or activity achieves its stated business objective. It reflects efficiency, output, and quality of performance. A key control indicator, or KCI, measures how well a specific control is performing, whether it is functioning as intended, consistently applied, and effective in reducing risk. Both types of indicators support monitoring, but they serve different purposes. KPIs tell the business how it is performing, while KCIs reveal whether safeguards are holding. For example, a KPI might measure the average time to resolve help desk tickets, while a KCI might track the number of failed privileged access reviews. On the exam, if a scenario describes a control that failed but wasn't flagged, the root cause is often a missing or weak KCI, not a KPI. Selecting the wrong type of indicator for a given scenario is a common exam trap. For more cyber-related content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. Also, there are other podcasts on cybersecurity and more at baremetalcyber.com. Effective KPIs and KCIs share a few critical traits. First, they are aligned with business objectives or specific risk treatment goals. They are also clear and measurable, defined in precise terms, tracked with consistent data, and interpreted within established boundaries. Every metric must be regularly monitored and reviewed with clear ownership and documented frequency. Perhaps most importantly, each metric should be tied to a threshold and a defined response. If a KCI shows that fewer than 80% of access reviews are completed on time, there must be a process for follow-up. Metrics that cannot trigger action serve little operational value. Vanity metrics such as total number of logins or lines of code written often clutter dashboards but offer no insight into performance or risk. CRISC professionals are responsible for identifying which metrics truly matter and helping their organizations avoid measurement for its own sake. On the exam, weak visibility or static metrics often point to irrelevant, misaligned, or ownerless indicators. Examples help clarify how KPIs and KCIs are used in different contexts. Common KPIs include the percentage of help desk tickets resolved within service-level agreements, the average system response time, or the percentage of projects delivered on time and within budget. These metrics help business units assess whether operations are meeting performance standards. KCIs, in contrast, reflect control reliability and governance effectiveness. For example, a KCI might track the number of control test failures per quarter, the percentage of privileged access reviews completed, or the number of security exceptions logged against policy. These indicators highlight where controls may be degrading, improperly applied, or circumvented. On the exam, questions may ask which metric best indicates control health, and the correct answer will always be a KCI aligned to the control's purpose and scope. Engaging control owners in metric design is critical because they understand the technical context of the control, its purpose, and how it is executed. CRISC professionals begin by reviewing control documentation, including the control's objective, design parameters, and implementation method. Together with the control owner, they discuss what success and failure look like, When does the control work and when does it break down? They identify what data sources already exist, what tools are used for logging or monitoring, and what gaps may need to be addressed. The goal is to define KPIs or KCIs that are both operationally realistic and risk-relevant. Risk professionals help translate technical metrics into governance language, aligning them with broader goals such as compliance, continuity, or residual risk reduction. On the exam, if metrics are deployed without owner input, the result is often low relevance or weak follow-through. The strongest answers emphasize joint definition, technical validation, and business alignment. When designing metrics, CRISC professionals and control owners follow the SMART principle: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely. A good metric clearly defines the unit of measure, whether it is a percentage, count, duration, or frequency. It includes a baseline for comparison, a desired direction such as an increase or decrease, and a clear tie to an outcome. For example, a KCI that tracks failed backup jobs must define what constitutes a failure, how often checks are run, and what the acceptable threshold is. Metrics must link directly to treatment plans, control objectives, or residual risk targets. Once proposed, metrics are reviewed with governance teams or risk committees to validate their value and ensure they align with oversight expectations. On the exam, vague or unactionable metrics indicate poor design. Correct answers reflect structured development and direct impact on performance or risk management outcomes. Monitoring and reporting responsibilities must be defined from the outset. The control owner typically conducts operational reviews of the metric, checking performance, logging exceptions, and initiating updates. The risk management function provides oversight, ensuring thresholds are enforced, escalations occur when needed, and trends are analyzed over time. GRC platforms can automate many of these steps, collecting data feeds, issuing alerts, generating reports, and maintaining audit trails. Ownership of each metric must be documented, with a clear schedule for review, whether daily, weekly, monthly, or quarterly, depending on risk criticality. On the exam, if a metric goes unreviewed or its failure is discovered late, the cause is often unassigned ownership or missing documentation. The best responses always reflect accountable monitoring, system integration, and documented oversight. Metrics must be communicated in formats that make sense to the intended audience. Dashboards, scorecards, and visualizations like traffic light charts or progress bars help decision-makers absorb status quickly. Time-based graphs and trend lines show whether a KPI or KCI is improving, declining, or erratic. Executives need high-level summaries that link metrics to outcomes such as residual risk updates, treatment plan revisions, or control redesigns. Control owners and technical teams need detailed reports that include context, exact values, and timing information. Auditors and regulators often require structured logs with evidence and supporting records. CRISC professionals help ensure that all stakeholders receive the right view of the metric for their decision-making role. On the exam, when governance fails to act, the clue may be that metrics were monitored but not communicated effectively. The best answers connect metric performance to tailored, actionable reporting. Metrics must evolve as the environment changes. CRISC professionals ensure that indicators are reviewed when controls are redesigned, when new risks are added to the register, when regulatory obligations shift, or when IT systems are upgraded. During these reviews, metrics may be refined to improve precision, removed if no longer relevant, or replaced to reflect updated controls. Thresholds may also need adjustment, especially if organizational tolerance has shifted or control effectiveness has improved. Revalidating metrics ensures that they remain predictive, actionable, and aligned with governance. Reviews should occur periodically and in conjunction with other governance activities, such as control testing, audits, or strategy updates. On the exam, if a metric fails to detect a control breakdown because it hasn't changed in years, the answer will involve metric review and update protocols. CRISC exam questions on metrics frequently test the candidate's ability to differentiate between KPIs and KCIs, select appropriate indicators, and assign responsibility for monitoring. You might be asked which metric best shows control health. The right answer will be a KCI, not a performance metric. You may also be asked why a control issue was missed, and the answer may involve the absence of an effective KCI or unclear ownership. Some questions ask how to select a metric, and the correct approach is to work jointly with the control owner, define SMART criteria, and align with risk and business objectives. When asked how to report metrics, the best responses include tailored dashboards, governance communication, and escalation rules. The strongest answers reflect measurable insight, collaboration, ownership, and alignment with control effectiveness and risk oversight. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Bare Metal Cyber CRISC Prepcast. For more episodes, tools, and study support, visit us at baremetalcyber.com.